Alrighty, folks, we're 3-0 in our last 3 NBA tier membership plays on my premium page. 75% in our last 16 in that same package. We're also 7-2 in our last 9 extra daily picks. 4-0 with a push in our last 5 underdog tier package plays. 3-0 in our last 3 board member tier package picks. 7-2 in our last 9 NHL tier package plays. And finally, folks, we are hitting at 77% in our last 22 Gold Club tier membership picks. And just a reminder, all of those packages are included with your full access, all-inclusive Gold Club membership. Gold Club members get access to every single premium selection of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. And before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick timeout. Hitting you with the hard sell right from the jump, man. Didn't even lube it up. Just wow, we just got it right in the business. But anyway, before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick time out and introduce myself. My name is Brock Page. I've been dishing out free sports picks on YouTube since 2016. Just want to welcome you to my free pick video here today for Sunday, March 2nd, 2025. Happy Sunday to you. Hopefully you're having yourself a great weekend. Folks, it's March. It is really the best time of year if you're a basketball fan. Of course, listen, I know I hit you with the hard sell right off the bat. If you don't need access to multiple premium plays, but maybe you're curious, you could use like one a day, you may want to think about signing up for my daily best play. It costs just 6 cents a day for 30 days worth of access. That is it. Just dip your toes in the water a little bit. And listen, if you're weary about if you're weary about joining a sleazy handicapper's website, listen, I don't blame you. But I do have over 2,085 members who are signed up and active on my premium page right now. Listen, I have plenty of free content over there, including my current overall win-loss record in every single package. Not many guys in my industry do that. They don't want you to know their record, but you can access that right now. That is located in the post section on my premium page. All you have to do is just go to the site, go to the post section, and scroll down. You don't have to buy anything to access my record. And with that, folks, let's go ahead and dive into some free content. Obviously, starting off in college basketball, we're going to take a look at FAU taking on USF, 12 o'clock East. Florida Atlantic is -3 away from home. Total's 154. Now, the Owls are just 5-6 on the road this year. Only 37% against the point spread. They really haven't covered a whole lot of numbers. Meanwhile, USF, they're 9-5 at home themselves. They covered recently against the likes of Texas San Antonio and UAB. Now, the Bulls are allowing only 7 made 3 balls a game on defense, 43% from the field. You're not going to steamroll them. I mean, they certainly contest shots. And they're facing an FAU squad on the other side who they've really struggled against the point spread recently. Like I just mentioned a few moments ago, listen, the Owls, they failed to cover in their last 5 straight. They had all kinds of issues on defense during that span. FAU gave up over 77 points per contest in their last 5 outings. And really, if you think about it, it's not overly shocking because FAU is currently 303rd in points allowed. Listen, they rarely contest the 3 ball. FAU's actually in the bottom 5 in defensive 3-point percentage. Now, the Owls did see unders in their last 3 straight. USF 5-1 to the under in their last 6. I like South Florida +3, under 154. All right, next game, Charlotte, East Carolina, 12 o'clock East. East Carolina's -9, totals 142. ECU 16-12 on the year, 10-6 straight up at home. Meanwhile, Charlotte just 10-18 themselves, 1-10 on the road. The 49ers dropped 7 out of their last 10. And they're in the bottom 20 in the nation in defensive field goal percentage. Kind of lax on defense. And they're facing an ECU squad who scores 77 points a game themselves. doing a nice job of offensive rebounding. R.J. Felton's averaging 18.5 points a game. C.J. Walker with over 17.5 points per contest himself. And out of the Pirates' last 10 contests, they got the W in all of those games except for 3. Now, they also saw overs in 60% of those contests I just mentioned. Charlotte saw 6 out of their last 10 get over the total themselves. I like ECU -9 over 142. All right, next contest. Kennesaw State taking on Liberty, 1 o'clock East. Liberty's -8.5, total 137. Liberty's 23-5 on the year, 12-2 straight up at home. The Flames are also covering in 68% of their games this year. They've been, I wouldn't quite say a cash cow, but they've certainly covered a lot of numbers. Now, Kennesaw on the other side, just 3-8 on the road this year. Losers of 6 out of their last 10. The Owls are shooting just 42% from the field, bottom 20 in 3-land. And once again, they're facing a Liberty team who's tough to shoot the basketball against. As a matter of fact, the Flames rank first in the NCAA in defensive three-point percentage. They're actually limiting their competition to just 27% from beyond the arc. You're just not going to shoot all over them from long range. And listen, aside from giving up only 60 points a game, the Flames rarely get into foul trouble, so that certainly helps the cause. They're 4th in the country in defensive free throw attempts. Now, both teams saw unders in 8 out of their last 10, respectively. Plenty of unders between these two schools. I like Liberty -8.5, under 137. All right, next game. Southern Illinois taking on Indiana State, 1 o'clock East. Indy State's -2.5, total 155 and a hook. Now, the Sycamores are just 13-17 on the year, covering in only 50% of their games. And more recently, Indiana State lost 5 out of their last 6. They gave up 82 points a game during that time frame. Indy State's currently in the bottom 25 in points allowed. They're facing a Southern Illinois team who covered recently against Illinois State, Murray State, and Illinois Chicago. Ali Deba scores 17 points per contest. Kennard Davis with 16 points a game himself. 5 out of the Salukis' last 9 did get over the line, throwing out that Murray State game. Meanwhile, Indiana State games went 5-4 to the over in their last 9 themselves. I like Southern Illinois, the Salukis, +2.5, over 155 and a hook. All right, next game. Iona Canisius, 1 o'clock East. Iona's 5.5, total 143. Iona's covering in nearly 60% of their games this year. Canisius on the other side, just 3-25 overall, 1-11 at home. The Golden Griffins allow nearly 80 points a game, and they have the second worst defensive field goal percentage in the nation. They're taking on an Iona team who got the W in 5 out of their last 8 themselves. 75% against the number during that time frame. DeJour Reeves averages 17 points a game, 85% from the foul line. And Adam Najee, he's scoring 11.5 points per contest himself. Iona games went 60% to the over in their last 10. Canisius saw overs in their last 3 straight. I like Iona -5.5, over 143. Next contest, a little Big Ten action. Wisconsin, Michigan State, 130 East. MSU's -4, totals 147. And listen, out of Sparty's last 9 contests, the under cashed in all of those games except for 1. Unders against the likes of Michigan and Purdue during that span. Now, the Spartans are limiting their competition to just 28% from 3-land. Meanwhile, Wisconsin, on the other side, they saw unders in 5 out of their last 9 themselves, limiting opposing shooters to just 41% from the field. We got 2 very tough defensive teams in this matchup here. I like the under 147. Next game, Northern Iowa taking on Bradley, 2 o'clock East. Bradley's 3.5, totals 141. Bradley's 23-7 on the year, 12-3 at home. Of course, more recently, the Braves got the W in 5 out of their last 6. Best three-point shooting team in America. Bradley's making 41% of their long balls as a team. Duke Dean leads the program in points per game, 41% from beyond the arc. And Christian Davis makes 43% of his long-range shots. They're facing a UNI team who failed to cover recently versus Drake and Illinois State. Both contests against Drake were outright losses. They were held to just 55 points a game on average in those 2 defeats. Now, oddly enough, the Panthers saw overs in 3 out of their last 5. Bradley games went 5-4 to the over in their last 9. I like Bradley minus 3.5, over 141. Next game, little Ivy League action. Princeton, Cornell, 2 o'clock East. Cornell's -4, totals 155. Now, the Big Reds 15-10 on the year. Princeton 18-9. The Tigers also have a 700 win percentage in their travels. Really good on the road. Of course, when it comes to shooting the deep ball, Princeton's averaging nearly 11 made three-pointers a game. Xavion Lee, he's averaging over 16.5 points per contest. Caden Pierce averages 12 points a game himself. They're facing a Cornell squad who lost 4 out of their last 6. Gave up a bunch of points during that stretch. Big Red allowed 84 points a game on average during that time period I just mentioned. They also saw overs in 5 out of their last 9, excluding that Penn game. Give me Princeton +4, over 155. Next matchup, staying in that 2 o'clock slate. St. Peter's, Marist, 2 o'clock East. Marist is -4, total 124. Marist is 20-6 on the year, 11-2 at home. St. Peter's 10-15 overall, 5-10 on the road. Of course, more recently, the Peacocks failed to cover in 6 out of their last 10. Having some troubles getting to the basket. St. Peter's is currently in the bottom 10 in field goals. And they got to face a Marist squad who is arguably who's arguably the toughest defensive team in the MAAC. The Red Foxes allow only 64 points a game, top 25 in fewest field goals allowed. Marist saw unders in 3 out of their last 4. St. Pete saw unders against Quinnipiac, Mount St. Mary's, and Fairfield. Give me Marist -4, under 124. Next matchup, Fairfield, Sacred Heart, 2 o'clock East. Sacred Heart's -6, totals 149.5. SHU's 7-5 at home, winning record against the point spread. Fairfield just 3-10 on the road this year, losing record against the number. More recently, the Stags took the outright loss in 6 out of their last 9. They're 335th in defensive field goal percentage. And unfortunately for them, Sacred Heart's averaging 76 points a game themselves. Just about double-digit 3 balls a game they're making. Now, 3 out of their top 4 scorers are shooting 41% from 3 land or better. Tanner Thomas averages 18 best, 15 points a game. 41% from long distance. And Anquan Hills, 42% from downtown, 12 points a game for him. Sacred Heart saw overs in 6 out of their last 10. Fairfield saw overs recently versus Manhattan, Iona, and Quinnipiac. I like Sacred Heart -6, over 149.5. Next game, Quinnipiac, Merrimack, 2 o'clock East. Quinnipiac's -1.5, total 140 and a hook. Merrimack's 15-14 on the year. Quinnipiac 18-10 themselves. And more recently, the Bobcats are on a 4-game winning streak, 8-2 straight up in their last 10. Now, Quinnipiac's 25th in the country in blocks on defense, 41% from the field. And they're facing a Merrimack school who does not shoot the basketball all that well. They're 42% from the field on offense, bottom 10 in free throws per game. And aside from averaging just 65 points per contest, the Warriors are one of the worst offensive rebounding teams in the nation. They're actually in the bottom 5 in offensive boards per game. Merrimack Contest went 60% to the under in their last 10. Quinnipiac saw unders against St. Peter's, Manhattan, and Ryder. I like Quinnipiac minus 1.5, under 140 and a hook. Next game, Siena, Mount St. Mary's, 2 o'clock East. The Mounts minus 2.5, totals 142. Mount St. Mary's is 17-11 on the year, 8-4 at home. Siena 13-15 themselves, 4-8 on the road. And when it comes to getting to the rack, the Saints are currently 301st in field goals made per game. They're facing a Mount St. Mary's team who limits their opponents to just 41% from the field, 32% from outside the perimeter. And out of the Mounts' last 8 games, they got the W in all of those contests except for 2. Now, the Mounts saw unders in 6 out of their last 10. I like Mount St. Mary's minus 2.5, under 142. Next contest, Manhattan, Niagara, 2 o'clock East. Niagara's minus 1, totals 143. The Purple Eagles are 10-18 on the year. Manhattan 14-12. The Jaspers got the W in 6 out of their last 9. 76 points a game they're averaging on offense. Devin Dinkins shoots 45% from outside the arc. Will Sidner nearly 15 points a game for him. They're taking on a Niagara team who's in the heart of a 4-game skid, 301st in defensive field goal percentage. They're also struggling guarding the long ball. They're in the bottom 20 in defensive 3-point percentage. Niagara saw 5 out of their last 9 get over the total, throwing out that Iona matchup. Meanwhile, Manhattan saw overs recently versus Canisius, Fairfield, and Merrimack. I like Manhattan plus 1, over 143. I could go for a Manhattan. I like Manhattans. I haven't been intoxicated in a really long time, probably 4 or 5 months. That's a good thing. I feel great. I feel like $1 million. Nobody should be getting piss drunk anyway. All right, next game, Evansville, Illinois State, 3 o'clock East. Illinois State's minus 9.5, totals 142 and a hook. The Redbirds are 17-13 on the year, 11-4 at home. Evansville, 11-19 themselves, 4-10 on the road. Now the Purple Aces dropped 5 out of their last 7, allowing nearly double-digit 3 balls a game. And that's certainly good news for Redbird fans because these guys are drilling nearly 40% of their deep balls as a team. Illinois State's currently 14th in shooting the 3 ball, 20th in field goal percentage. 3 out of Illinois State's top 4 scorers shoot 40% from 3-land or better. Jack Doherty makes a staggering 49.5% of his attempts from outside the arc. Meanwhile, Walker and Kinzinger, they're averaging 30 points a game combined between the both of them. The Redbirds saw overs in their last 9 straight. Evansville, 7-2 to the over in their last 9. Give me Illinois State minus 9.5, over 142 and a hook. Next game, Missouri State taking on Drake, 3 o'clock East. Drake's 14, total 119. The Bulldogs are 26-3, 13-2 at home. Missouri State 9-21 themselves, 1-11 on the road. Of course, more recently, the Bears lost 8 out of their last 10. They're 326th in defensive field goal percentage. They're taking on a Drake team who plays at a slow, methodical pace on offense. And, they rarely miss their opportunities. The Bulldogs are making nearly 50% of their attempts from the field. Bennett Sturtz scores over 18.5 points per contest. Mitch Muscari, 42% from 3-land. Now, Drake saw overs in 5 out of their last 9, excluding that UIC matchup. Meanwhile, Missouri State saw overs recently versus Illinois State, Belmont, and Murray State. I like Drake minus 14, over 119. All right, next matchup, Murray State, Belmont, 3 o'clock East. Belmont's 2.5, total 151. Belmont 20-10 on the year, 10-5 at home. Murray State plays just .500 basketball themselves, 5-7 on the road. The Racers also lost 6 out of their last 10, having a tough time getting to the cut. Murray State's 317th in field goals per game. Now, Belmont got the W in 5 out of their last 7. One of the better three-point shooting schools in the country. They're averaging 11 three balls a game, nearly 40% from outside the arc. Tyler Lundblade splashing nearly 50% of his attempts from three-land, dozen points a game for him. And Jonathan Pierre scoring 14 points per contest himself. Both programs saw overs in 6 out of their last 10. I like Belmont -2.5, over 151. All right, next matchup, Valparaiso, Illinois, Chicago, 3 o'clock East. UIC is -5.5, totals 152 and a hook. Now, the Flames are 16-13 on the year, 8-5 at home. Meanwhile, Valpo's 13-17 themselves, 3-9 on the road. Of course, more recently, the Beacons failed to cover the point spread in 8 out of their last 10. They're 322nd in defensive field goal percentage. They're taking on an Illinois-Chicago team who's averaging 77 points a game themselves. Ahmad Henderson's averaging over 11.5 points a game. Javon Jackson, team leader in scoring. Now, the Flames saw overs in 5 out of their last 9, throwing out their Northern Iowa matchup. Meanwhile, Valpo went 5-4 to the over in their last 9 themselves. I like Illinois-Chicago -5.5, over 152 and a hook. All right, next matchup, 4 o'clock slate. Colorado taking on Kansas State, 4 o'clock East. I know you see me skip this one. Ain't giving you a freebie on that one. Could be on the total or the side. Not giving you a freebie on that one. Ain't happening. Next game, Colorado State, K-State, 4 o'clock East. Kansas State's -6.5, totals 139. The Wildcats do have a winning record against the point spread, 9-4 straight up at home. Colorado just 11-17 themselves, 0-8 on the road. And more recently, the Buffs dropped 8 out of their last 10. Having a tough time getting to the basket. Colorado's 307th in field goals made per contest, averaging only 6 made three balls a game. They're facing a Kansas State program who's been tough against the long ball themselves. Wildcats allow only 6 made three-pointers a game on defense. When it comes to offensive production, the Wildcats do have a handful of guys who can get to the cup. David Nagesson averages over 12.5 points per contest, 62% from the field. And Brendan Housen knocks down 40% of his attempts from downtown. Now, when it comes to covering the number, K-State successfully covered the point spread in 7 out of their last 10. The Wildcats also saw overs recently versus UCF, Kansas, and West Virginia. I like K-State -6.5, over 139. Next game, Rice, Texas San Antonio, 6 o'clock East. Utz is -1, total 150.5. Now, Texas San Antonio is just 10-17 on the year, currently on a 6-game skid. The Roadrunners do not rebound well on offense, and they're also 320th in shooting from the field. They're facing a Rice program who limits opposing teams to just 42% from the field. And even though this matchup is basically a pick'em, man, this I look really bright today. I don't know why the imaging is so bright. But anyway, they're facing a Rice, even though this is basically a pick'em, I can't deny the fact that Rice successfully covered in 8 out of their last 9 games. Didn't help. I don't know what's going on. Trey Broadnax. He's scoring over 12.5 points a game. Caden Powell with double-digit points per contest himself. 60% from the field. I feel like the picture is getting worse and worse. What the heck? Oh, my goodness. All right. Anyway, don't worry about it, Brock. chances are you haven't made it this deep into the video anyway. Rice saw unders recently versus Tulsa, ECU, and South Florida. Odds of games went 4-3 to the under in their last 7. I like Rice. I like the food Rice, obviously, and I like Rice in this matchup. Give me the Rice Owls +1 under 150.5. All right, next game, North Florida taking on Austin Peay, 7 o'clock East. North Florida's -2, totals 160. Now, the Ospreys have a losing record on the year, 7-10 on the road. Meanwhile, Austin Peay's 8-5 at home themselves, winners of 4 out of their last 7. Isaac Haney knocks down 40% of his 3 balls, 13 points a game. And LJ Thomas scores 14 points per contest himself. They're squaring off against a North Florida squad who lost 5 out of their last 7. They've been terrible on the defensive end of the floor. UNF gives up more field goals a game than any other school in the country. And no real surprise here, the Ospreys are in the bottom 5 in defensive boards. Now, both schools saw overs in 3 out of their last 5. I like Austin Peay +2, over 160. And with that, we're going to jump into our next and final breakdown for college basketball. Don't change that dial. We got NBA in just a moment. Central Arkansas taking on Stetson, 7 o'clock East. Stetson's -1.5, totals 144 and a hook. And even though this is a super short number, the Hatters did cover the point spread in their last 3 straight. They've got 4 different players on the roster averaging double digits a game. Makai Ellison averages over 14.5 points a night. Josh Massey, 53% from the field, over 11.5 points a game. They're facing a Central Arkansas team who dropped 7 out of their last 9. They're dead last in 3-pointers allowed. Their opponents are knocking down nearly 13 3 balls a game against them. Now, Central Arkansas matchups went 8-2 to the over in their last 10. Stetson saw overs recently against Jacksonville, Florida Gulf Coast, and Lipscomb. Give me Stetson -1.5, over 144 and a hook. NBA Nuggets Celtics, 1 o'clock East. Boston's 2.5, total 235 and a hook. The Celtics saw overs recently versus Cleveland, Philadelphia, and New York. They're also splashing more 3 balls a game than any other team. Meanwhile, Denver saw overs in 6 out of their last 10 themselves. Best field goal shooting team in the league. Give me the over, 235.5. Next matchup, Blazers Cavaliers, 3:30 p.m. East. Cleveland's 11.5, total 233 and a hook. The Cavs are 49-10 on the year, 68% against the point spread. Meanwhile, Portland's 6 games below 500 themselves, 11-19 on the road. Of course, more recently, the Blazers failed to cover in 5 out of their last 8. 25th in the league in points per game. They're taking on a Cleveland squad who actually plays well on the defensive end of the floor. A lot of folks focus on their offensive production, but the Cavaliers are actually 6th in the league in defensive field goal percentage, 8th in defensive boards. But, of course, the real strength of this Cleveland squad, it's their ability to put up points. A lot of them. They're currently the best 3-point shooting team in the league, 123 points a game on offense. Darius Garland shoots 42% from downtown, 21 points a game. Meanwhile, Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, they're averaging 20 rebounds a night between the both of them. Cleveland saw overs in 6 out of their last 8. Portland games went 5-3 to the over in their last 8 themselves. I like Cleveland -11.5, over 233 and a hook. Next game, Bulls, Pacers, 5 o'clock East. Indiana's 9.5, totals 244. Now, the Pacers are 33-25 on the year, but they do have a losing record against the point spread. And more recently, the Pacers failed to cover in 6 out of their last 10. They currently find themselves 23rd in defensive field goal percentage. And they're taking on a Chicago team who has little problems getting on the scoreboard. The Bulls are a top 10 point-producing team, 3rd in 3 balls made. They're splashing nearly 17 3-pointers per contest. Now, Bulls games went 7-3 to the over in their last 10. Pacer games went 60% to the over in their last 10 themselves. I like the Bulls plus 9.5, over 244. Next game, Knicks Heat, 6 o'clock East. New York's 5.5, totals 223. The Knicks are 39-20 on the year, but they do have a losing record against the point spread. Of course, more recently, the Knicks failed to cover in 7 out of their last 10. Failures to cover against lowly teams like Philadelphia, Chicago, and Atlanta. When it comes to defensive play, the Knicks are definitely susceptible to the three ball. They're actually dead last in defensive three-point percentage. And they're facing a Miami squad who's in the top 10 in three-pointers made per game. Of course, when it comes to covering the number, the Heat covered the point spread in 4 out of their last 7. Covers against the likes of Indiana, Atlanta, and Oklahoma City. Tyler Hero's averaging over 24 points per contest. Bam Adebayo snags double-digit rebounds a game. Now, 5 out of the Heat's last 6 did get over the total. Knick games went 60% to the over in their last 10. I like the Heat plus 5.5, over 223. Next contest, Raptors Magic, 6 o'clock East. Orlando's 6.5, totals 211 and a hook. Now, Orlando's 18-13 at home. Toronto just 5-23 on the road. Of course, more recently, the Raptors took the loss in 8 out of their last 10. They're 24th in points allowed. The big problem for the Raptors, defensive fouls. They're allowing more free throws a game than any other team. And that's certainly good news for Orlando because that's actually one of the few things they do well on offense. Get to the stripe. They're 5th in free throw attempts per game. Franz Wagner, 25 points a night. Paolo Banchero, 23 points a game for him. Magic saw overs recently versus Golden State, San Antonio, and Sacramento. Meanwhile, Toronto went 60% to the over in their last 10. I like Orlando minus 6.5, over 211 and a hook. Next contest, Thunder Spurs. Why we gotta do this, guys? Why we gotta do this? Thunder Spurs, 7 o'clock East. OKC's minus 13.5, totals 237. Thunder's 48-12 on the year, 22-7 on the road. And even though it seems like they always lay a big number, well, listen, OKC's covering in 67% of their games. A lot of games are laying double digits, so that is certainly an impressive feat. Now, San Antonio, they're just 25-33 on the year themselves, losing record against the point spread. And more recently, the Spurs failed to cover in 7 out of their last 10. They're 24th in shooting the three-pointer. And unfortunately for them, OKC is the toughest team to shoot against in the league. They're first in defensive field goal percentage, first in defensive three-point percentage as well. Of course, no real surprise. OKC allows only 106 points a game. Now, OKC saw unders recently versus Minnesota, Miami, and Memphis. Meanwhile, 6 out of San Antonio's last 7 stayed under the number themselves. I think the Spurs are going to have a tough time scoring points here. They might not even hit the century mark. Give me OKC minus 13.5, under 237. Next contest, Pelicans Jazz, 8 o'clock East. The Pelicans are minus 6, totals 232.5. New Orleans is 16-44 on the year, 5-25 on the road. And believe it or not, Utah has a winning record against the point spread this year on the other side. They covered in 5 out of their last 7. Covers against the likes of the Rockets, Clippers, and Lakers. When it comes to rebounding the basketball, the Jazz actually do a nice job on the defensive end of the court. They're 8th in the league in defensive boards per game. And I'll tell you, that's certainly bad news for New Orleans because they're a bottom 10 offensive rebounding team. Little threat shooting the basketball in general, just from anywhere. They average only a dozen 3 balls a game, 24th in offensive field goal percentage. Now, 4 out of the Pels' last 7 did stay under the total. Utah saw unders recently for Sacramento and Portland. Give me the Jazz +6, under 232.5. Next matchup, little rematch here. Clippers, Lakers, 9:30 p.m. East. Lakers are -1.5, totals 220. The Lakers saw overs recently versus Utah, Indiana, and Golden State. The Lakers are currently 6th in field goal percentage, 3rd in free throws made. Of course, Clipper games went 6-3 to the over in their last 9. They're 10th in shooting from the foul line. I like the over 220. And with that, we're going to jump into our next and final breakdown for the video. Timberwolves, Suns, 9:30 p.m. East. Phoenix is 1.5, total 228. The Suns are 4 games below 500, losing record against the point spread. Meanwhile, Minnesota's 3 games over 500 themselves, winning record on the road. The T-Wolves have also been dominant against Phoenix in recent gatherings. Minnesota got the W in their last 6 straight against the Suns. When it comes to shooting the long ball, Minnesota's in the top 5 in shooting from downtown. Anthony Edwards averages 27 points a game, 40% from beyond the arc. And Naz Reid's averaging over 14.5 points a game himself, nearly 40% from downtown. And they're taking on a struggling Suns organization who lost 7 out of their last 9. They're in the bottom 10 in points given up. Now, Phoenix is also second to last in defensive turnovers. Both teams went 60% to the over in their last 10, respectively. I like Minnesota +1.5, over 228. And with that, folks, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap. College basketball, USF +3, under 154. East Carolina -9, over 142. What are we promoting today? Basketball. 3-0 NBA. Let's start that quick pick recap over again because I just take that clip and post it to TikTok. All right, and with that, folks, now it's time for our quick pick recap. I like USF +3, under 154. East Carolina -9, over 142. I'm 3-0. My last 3 NBA tier package plays on my premium page. 75% my last 16 in that same package. Liberty -8.5, under 137. Southern Illinois +2.5, over 155 and a hook. Iona -5.5, over 143. Give me the under 147 in that Wisconsin-Michigan State matchup. Bradley -3.5, over 141. Princeton +4, over 155. Marist -4, under 124. Sacred Heart -6, over 149.5. Quinnipiac -1.5, under 140 and a hook. Mount St. Mary's -2.5, under 142. Manhattan +1, over 143. Illinois State -9.5, over 142 and a hook. Give me Drake -14, over 119. Belmont -2.5, over 151. Illinois Chicago -5.5, over 152 and a hook. Kansas State -6.5, over 139. Rice +1, under 150.5. Austin Peay +2, over 160. Stetson -1.5, over 144 and a hook. NBA over 235.5 in that Nuggets-Celtics matchup. Cavaliers -11.5, over 233 and a hook. Chicago Bulls +9.5, over 244. Miami Heat +5.5, over 223. Magic -6.5, over 211 and a hook. Oklahoma City Thunder -13.5, under 237. Utah Jazz +6, under 232.5. Give me the over 220 in that Clipper-Laker game. And with that, folks, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my premium page. But most importantly, folks, gotta thank you for joining me right here on the free video. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. With that said, folks, happy Sunday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my premium page.